Hey everyone, I think I'll call this misinformation. I don't know. That I had a video taken down, my first warning, because I questioned um, the 2020 election. I had questions about the integrity of that and voting machines. And I freely admit this is what I did. And the Russian collusion, all these political moves to frame Trump as some kind of tyrant and traitor. And so my question is, how is that misinformation? I mean, that is dialogue. That is what our military uh, has fought for generations to have the right to free speech, the right to dialogue, the right to back and forth. How is that misinformation? Um, it's an opinion. It's my opinion. But why does YouTube and PBS and all these other platforms, what gives them the authority to say what's misinformation and what's not misinformation? I put to you that it's just nothing but pure power. It's a power play, and it's a play to shut people down that don't go along with the narrative. As being un-American, and my family has been here since 1600s. They fought in the American Revolution, the American Civil War. Um, my grandfather was in the Navy during the First World War, and he saw the pandemic and carried bodies off uh, of the swine flu that killed millions. And he would hear people say in the middle of the night, "I got it," and then we wake up the next day and they'd be dead. Um, this is my opinions and what how I think are formed from, of course, my family and the influences and the things that I see, and the same with everybody else. And although I may disagree with the narrative, uh, I don't think that's a threat to democracy. No, a threat to democracy is manipulating people and manipulating, I think everybody would agree, manipulating votes, um, fraud. That would be, not that they did that, YouTube, but that would be a threat to democracy. And if you were doing that, you would constantly try to deflect your lies and your lack of having a plan to a person that maybe did have a plan. I challenge anybody to say, what did Trump do that was a threat to democracy? He secured our borders. He had a booming economy not seen since after the Second World War. Um, we had national security. We had peace in the world. We had energy independence. And contrast that with what we have now. So I ask you, what is misinformation? Who is peddling the misinformation? No, I think this is an attempt to shut down opposition. And I'll say that again. This is an attempt by the mainstream media, the corporate banking world, to shut down any opposition that would dare oppose them and their new world order. Uh, I'll just say as a general term. Now, I have to say that when I speak to my pastor at the Baptist church, he he told me, he said, "Well, what did God say? What, what did the Lord say to Abraham and to Lot? What did he warn them? He said, don't look back. Don't look back on the world. Don't be, don't make let your heart, set your heart upon the world and the world's things, but look forward to me." And of course, the point is, remember Lot's wife. What happened? Lot's wife looked back on Sodom and she was turned into a pillar of salt. And there's a principle here that we have to only look to the Lord. We can't look to the things of the world. But on a natural level, I have to say that people being called liars and divisive to democracy, when they're no such thing, when they're just the same as they've always been. I had a man tell me here on the island, an old gentleman tell me on the island, in World War II, it was the same thing. You had differences of opinion, but the thing is, they didn't try to separate and divide people uh, because of power. The country was united in the sake of stopping the world from Adolf Hitler and the Japanese takeover of the world in the Pacific. The country was united against it. There was a common cause, a common goal. But to sit there and talk about your political opponent as being the enemy, that's just wrong. Or anybody that supports that political opponent. So, is that misinformation? I don't think so. I think that's what's happening today. And so, I'm sorry, and I'm saying this is an opinion piece. I'm not saying it is fact, although there's facts in it. And there's probably facts in the other side too, but it still just gets down to opinion and politics. And we should have the right, whoever you are. This was liberalism, classic liberalism. Whoever you are, you should have the right to speak your opinion, whether people agree with you or not. That's what made this country great. That's what uh, separated us from the rest of the world and tyranny, is the fact that we do have back and forth in this country, and we have had freedom of speech. But in the electronic age, it seems to me that that's all being controlled. And again, I go back to digitally. Is that safe to vote digitally like that? I mean, it could be safe. The banks make your digital transactions safe. So why couldn't you do that on a national level? Why should there be any question? The Democrats even said that these machines aren't safe. But now all of a sudden, you can't speak about machines. So, I mean, this is one-sided. And how dare somebody say what's misinformation and what's not? I mean, that's like playing God. Does everybody know everything? No. And we should have the right to dialogue. And we should have the right to question our government and to challenge our government. That's the whole idea of freedom, not to demonize one part of the population that doesn't agree with you. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll get another warning or get taken off YouTube or whatever for saying this, but it is very important that people understand we have a give and take in this country, and it's supposed to be free. And only in tyrannical countries can you not speak what you think. Only in tyrannical countries, and I don't care if it's the Nazis or a full-blown communist, the Reds, you can't say what you feel and what you think and what you dialogue with. And that's what's made this country better and outstanding than any other nation in the world, is the fact that we have liberty to speak our minds and we can dialogue in the marketplace of ideas. And once you take that away, once you limit people, well, that just stinks of tyranny and control. And so, and I put this forth in the sense as what the media, like PBS kept talking about Trump, the threat to democracy. Well, number one, we live in a republic, but never mind that. I challenge you, how was the man a threat to democracy? What's a threat to democracy is controlling how people think and the thoughts that they put out and their opinions, and especially in the form of votes. If you didn't count your citizens' votes because you didn't like them, okay, and this would be like in Marxist countries or Nazi countries, Well, then what's the difference? So don't sit there and say that this is misinformation or whatever. It's opinion, but don't say it's misinformation when you have no evidence that it's misinformation. Misinformation has to be provable, and I challenge you to prove that what I'm saying is wrong in what's occurring today. And I fear that Americans are going to lose their voice. I fear this is a New World Order ploy, and the Luciferian New World Order, where Satan's going to be put at the top, and many are thrown into prison for Christ's namesake, for daring to speak truth openly. I fear that's where we are. And well, so with his first warning of YouTube and everything, it's the only way I can say it is, what did I do wrong besides questioning what I see? You know, everybody talks about Hitler. Did people question Hitler? Well, sure, people questioned Hitler, but it was suppressed. I mean, you know, the powers that be suppress things. When I was in the Coast Guard up in Alaska, and the old Soviet Union had fishing trawlers, and you had KGB agents on board, and their job was to look for contraband. They contraband certain information. Okay, that's what I see happening here. Now, never mind the guys who used to toss the Playboy magazines on the deck, and the crew would come out and grab them and go and hide. But the idea was that you had the state watching what people, the information or the media or whatever, what people could see and not see. And that's tyrannical. That is power. That is government being over people, not people being over government. And I'm using that as an example. When you start controlling what people can express and what they can express, even though if it's outlandish, that's a problem, because it shuts down dialogue, it shuts down freedom, and that's what I fear is happening. So let's look at this be intellectually honest and look at this honestly. Is that happening? I mean, like I said, classical liberalism gave you the right to say whatever you thought, even if it was disagreeable. But now, if it's disagreeable, you get banned, or you get, it's just. I'm sorry, I get so angry with the same controlled dialogue of threats to democracy and Donald Trump and January 6th. Well, okay, maybe it is a threat in their mind, but maybe they're a threat in other people's minds. The fact that you can't have this dialogue, and the fact that people, the president gets on and talks about people who are extremists as opposed to not extremists. Well, where do you draw the idea of extremism? Where's the center line? I mean, that's all I'm saying. And can't we express that openly? Evidently, we can't. If you say the wrong things, you get flagged. So, but back to what I was saying earlier. I have to, and I freely admit this, I have to remember Lot's wife. I have to not focus on the politics of this world and the power struggles of this world, because that's not ultimately where my kingdom lies. My kingdom should be to focus on the Lord Jesus Christ and his second coming. So I admit that, Justin and all you guys. I admit that. I see your point on that. But my point is let us have freedom to worship and to think openly without having some one world order demonic power structure telling us what we can and what we can't think, and what our dialogue can be, what we can speak and what we can't speak. That's what I'm saying, because that's not freedom either. And I want to say that although there's always been these, I don't know, dark forces around the world and in this country, the idea of the Puritans and the separatists and the Anabaptists and a lot of people that base their faith on the Reformation, and forming our Constitution, the Mayflower Compact and the likes. That's what this country was all about, was to have freedom of expression, freedom of worship, without fear of imprisonment or worse. All right. Thanks for watching. Bye.